All right, what we want to do here is basically get some data for aluminum foil lab, or at least some notes, sorry. So aluminum foil lab. Now you're going to do a purpose, procedure, etc., etc., etc. Purpose of this lab is just to find the thickness of your aluminum foil. So I want you have to have a little bit of imagination. I want you to think of your foil as a block. And somebody might say, well, it's not much of a block. If you think about it, it's super, super thin. So this region right here is super, super thin. I've obviously enlarged it. But if you think about it, we can get this dimension and this dimension. So remember that volume would equal x times y, and then if we call this z, okay, x times y times z, then we would have cubic centimeters. All right? Well, we don't have that, and we're going to have to calculate it. So when we look at this density triangle, we realize that density is mass over that volume we were talking about. So maybe let's try to solve for volume, which means we would cover this up, and we could take the mass and divide it by the density if we knew the density of aluminum, and that would have to be the volume. Well, we actually do know the density of aluminum. We know the density of aluminum is 2.73 grams per cubic centimeter. Many of you got this in your cube lab set of data. You were 2.7, 2.8. Anyway, let's use this data for this piece of data for our density of aluminum. Now, if you go and obtain x and y, you can now do the following. You could take the mass, which maybe you have some grams, like you'll go and weigh your piece, and then you can divide it by the 2.73 grams per cubic centimeter, and that will be a volume number, and you know that that number has to equal whatever you had for x times whatever you had for y. We got those two numbers from the lab. Then you can solve for z, and that's the idea. You want to solve for z. Solving for z, we would make this little manipulation. We take and divide out the x and the y. This number that we just got, we would divide that by x times y. So this is the game plan. We want to get the mass, divide it by the density, then that will be a number, and then we'll divide that number by the x times y. That will ultimately get us z, or the thickness of aluminum foil.